fair assessment. Look, we have idealism and practicalities of political nature in this country. Looking at the website of Register of Political Parties, you've seen over 80 political parties that are registered in Kenya. And in those political parties that are registered, you wonder where they always outlive after the elections. And you can mention a few that has been very active and alive, pre and post-election. So what does that tell you? Why would individuals or organizations form political parties and then go silent after elections? As Prof and Honorable Sosion is talking about, what then would be their ideological clinching over political parties with regards to an extension of democracy or living a democratic ideal in this country? I have painstakingly said that our political parties, as been mentioned, are quite unique, because one is that the composition of political parties normally begins to make sure that they are formed around ethnic interest. And how then would that further ethnicity? So call it any political party. The realities of political parties here. Look at their foundation. Look at their formation. Mention any political parties, and then you'll either see ethnicity or you'll either see regionalism in their formation first, before onboarding the ideological or political formulation. So that is always one particular score in formation of political parties. Like right now, for example, talk about the formation of political parties in central Kenya in the context of what is happening right now. What would be the ideology of that political party? Talk about the formation of any political parties in Luo Nyanza or in Kisii. You saw Kisii leaders saying that this time they would form their own political parties. Because probably one is the reality is like formation of political parties around ethnicity, then galvanize the ethnic interest first. Personal interest, ethnic interest, regional interest first. And you see issues comes later. One of the things that we keep on reviewing as you form political parties is, do we now talk about ideologies, or do we talk about the policy clinching? Where is these political parties, they are policy based? Because as Prof has mentioned, look, no understanding about ideologies. Ask any Kenyan in the street, what is the ideology of ODM? For example, just tell me, like your cameras zooms and have, goons in the streets. Ask any person, talking, tell me about the political ideology of ODM or, of UDA. At least for UDA, by that time, you could have mentioned what they're talking about, popularity of bottom-up economical transformation. So probably a vendor somewhere would tell you bottom-up. But then question about what is about for the ODM, nobody knows. What is about for Jubilee, nobody knows. So I think it's right time then, could we then talk about what is our policy cleaning, or where are we lying in our policy? So I've also had this discussion to debunk the discussion about measuring our political parties. Of course, is comparatively looking at how would we measure our political parties with other political parties in our neighborhood or in our region. And the issues around CCM probably has been mentioned. Look at CCM had an ideological basis. They were Jamaican socialism. But the reality is, does that still resonate with the context of what is happening in the context of change, globalization, and all these things? Democracy as is working out. Talk about ANC South Africa, because we also have ANC Kenya. So talking about ANC and around the strength of ANC in terms of the executive council, in terms of their party leader, in terms of even electing their leaders. We saw what almost happened in the last election in South Africa until ANC had to reach out to other political parties to gain the majority in parliament to form government. So the reality is, are we still looking at political parties surviving in the context of the current global issues that are happening right now? So lastly, on the election around Democrats and Republicans and all these things, I think you could actually see, even within the American elections, there's a lot of crossover, a lot of thin line in policies as well. And people toying whether to support Donald Trump for what he stood for. Because even on the Republican Party, there's others issues that are so extreme that a Republican would really not want to touch it. But look at the figurehead of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, the extreme things that he believes in, for example, immigration policies, for example, looking at issues of climate change, has Republicans reconciled themselves by the fact that there is a denial in the issue of climate change? Not really. Many of them, for example, are looking at there is a real issue here about global change, but our party leader is saying it is a scam. So those particular issues you look at and try to look at our context in the political parties, there is a lot of variance. But on the issues of ODM, I think let's also give the devil its due. All of us have agreed that ODM has tried as much as enough to hold a grassroots election. Whether it's consensus building, whether it's going through the ballot, there's something that has happened in the grassroots election. I know there will be a lot of petitions because the party has issued that if you are dissatisfied by the election, then you are able to petition. But the question is, if I petition about, an executive committee member who has found his way, way again, would my voice be listened to?
The issue about ownership of these parties, because most of them have